Hello and welcome to episode 322 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now coming up on today's episode, I'm joined by James and Kristoffer from the brilliant band His Lordship. This is a band that have just got incredible rock and roll running through their blood. Their music is fantastic, their live show is unbelievable, and as we're sitting here right now, we know that their brand new album is going to be out on January the 26th. I think everyone's going to absolutely fall in love with it, and I love what they're doing. So I really hope today you discover this band if you don't already know them, or if you are a fan, you get to find out a bit more about this band and what makes them themselves. Before I hit play and give you that interview, I'd just like to touch base and talk about my last episode. On episode 321, I was joined by Andy Nyman. What a great interview, what a great response, and just all-round great guy, and definitely someone that I'm really keen to get back on the podcast as soon as possible. But today it's all about His Lordship, a band that you should be listening to, and hopefully after listening to today's interview you will do just that. So I think the best thing to do right now is to get straight to the interview itself. So here's me and James and Kristoffer from His Lordship talking all things music.
Eyes like roadkill, say you got a bad deal. Did it get you on the wrong night? Bad mood, appetite, why you a bust?
So James and Chris, thank you so much for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast.
Hello, thanks for having us.
What I love to do on the podcast, and I do this with all guests that come on, is take it right back to the very start. So for both of you, I would love to know what was the first album that you remember, maybe as a kid, that you were given or you bought with your pocket money, that made you fall in love with music. That very first one that you remember just being obsessed with and listening to over and over again and just falling in love with every song on there.
Chris, you go first on this one.
Well, I think like it came, I didn't know that I was supposed to love it in the beginning. I just grew up with my dad's record collection and it was just there. You know, he was listening to Frank Zappa and like Joan Armatrading. It was quite good, but also like he was like, he should have been a musician, but he wasn't allowed for his parents. He became a bricklayer instead. So he had this great love of music. But I remember hearing Fresh by Sly and the Family Stone at a party. I might have been 15. That was where I was like, what is this? That groove, but still had like the attitude. And I just went into a room like at the party and just listened to this album for like 15 times or something. So I think that was my first one. Yeah.
That's amazing foundations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's the same. I mean, my dad's record collection was vast. And my dad really should have been a musician in another life too. And he had so many records and was playing me music all the time that it really is blurry. I didn't go out, because I've been asked this question a few times. I never went to our price with my own money and bought record just because my dad had it all and he'd be playing it all the time. And I mean, the first sort of records that I really connected with were Elvis records, really. I mean, that's what I remember. I was obsessed with Elvis and I wanted to be Elvis and I would listen to him constantly. I would stand on the sofa whilst watching the Elvis 68 comeback special and trying to be Elvis with a microphone stand, you know. And so I listened to all those Sun records and everything were very influential to me in you know, at a very young age. You know, that's how I remember first hearing music, really, was all that stuff, but also other stuff, Miles Davis, all this stuff. He exposed me to a lot of music, and so it's his fault where I am now.
We pretty much have the same, like your dad took you to lots of gigs.
Yeah.
Well, my dad took me to quite a few gigs, and you have a brother who's a drummer, and I have a brother who's a drummer as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we have kind of the same.
Yeah. I didn't know that about your dad. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
With live music, I think that's where it all changed for me. Even at a young age, just after sort of primary school, even getting into secondary school, kind of the age of 11, 12, I'd go to loads of gigs. And back then you could go and see in Wolverhampton, places like that, Green Day, you know, Bush, Foo Fighters, really early shows. What were those first shows? And I think you both said your dad had taken you both as children that you remember that made the hairs on your neck stick up, your kind of rib cage shake, and you kind of were just blown away thinking that's what I want to do when I grow up?
I mean, for me, Chris is bored of hearing this because we went through this in the van the other day, but my dad would take me to every gig he went to. And so that would be, you know, it would be in that from like I was about 5 years old. I think my first show I ever saw was Fats Domino when I was like 5 years old at the South Bank. And then
so young.
he would just take me. And then the next week we went to see Sonny Rollins.
Wow.
But he would take me to everything from Frank Sinatra to Miles Davis to Stevie Ray Vaughan I mean, the list is endless. Dion, Neville Brothers. I mean, I would be going out. You know, we went out together 3 times a week to see gigs up until I was probably, you know, 17, 18. You know, I mean, he took me to see everyone that was worth seeing for me. So endless amounts of gigs for me. I guess the one, I mean, seeing you know, Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry back in the 80s, that they were great because that's what I was obsessed with. I was obsessed with rock and roll when I was young.
Yeah.
Cuda at Wembley Arena when
Bloody
he did
hell.
the Get Rhythm tour. That was big one for me because I was obsessed with him. Johnny Cash a few times. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, he outdid himself, really. It was I owe him everything.
Do you know, I've interviewed over 300 people and no one's hit it that hard with their first shows. People like Johnny Cash. Everyone else is like, I think I went to see Cooler Shaker or Feeder in a small pub. But you've seen everybody.
He gave me a you know, that is why I'm doing it, really.
Yeah.
It was seeing all these people and just, you know, I lived for shows, you know. He would take me out of, you know, we wouldn't go to, you know, parents' evening. We'd be at, you know, the Half Moon Putney Singer Band or something, you know. It would be like that was his focus and my focus, and it always has been. Obsessed with music. Obsessed.
That's good. That's amazing. Is it the same for you, Chris?
My dad, he still goes, like he lives on his own now. He plays tennis twice a week, and then he still goes to 2 free gigs. Like he'll find the cheap ones, you know.
Yeah.
Go see a jazz gig in a cafe or something. But I mean, Copenhagen, unfortunately, I don't think we ever had Johnny Cash come through here. And we might have in the 70s or something. But yeah, we went to quite a few gigs. I remember, and the ones that hit me, that because we went to lots of, like, with artists you wouldn't know. But then I remember seeing Ray Charles, an outdoor concert where it started like a thunder coming on, and it was just like, you know, you told yourself this is magic, like it's gonna, you know, it's because of Ray Charles, it's lightning. I remember that one, and Miles Davis as well were there. It was
These
just
are the late Miles Davis years.
Mixture of something you didn't quite understand, but it was still raw. But they played well, but it never went into like excellence. It was still like, it came from roots, I think, were those things that really hit me hard.
What year did you see Miles Davis?
That year, it must have been mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s, yeah.
I remember
I'm so jealous.
He had a bass player, Marcus Miller.
Yeah, I went to the one in,
and his nephew was playing like these electric drums with his fingers.
That's right.
Yeah,
it was great, and it was really good. One of those 8 jackets on, those leather jackets. I remember it really clearly, and we sat at the back of the festival hall. And I think it was 1990, or it might have been earlier than that. But we sat at the back because Miles Davis always used to play with his back to the audience, didn't he?
Oh,
so
yeah.
We sat at the back, so he was just playing to us. You know, it was fantastic.
It
was during that synth period that Jean-Pierre loved that.
Exactly.
That's unbelievable. And I suppose I'm always interested because parents obviously have a massive part of your childhood and upbringing, and some parents would be against you saying that I want to be in a band, I want to make a career in music, but it seems that both of you are very fortunate that they must have been like, we really want you to do this, because it could be a nightmare for some parents for, being like, I want to be a rock star. Like, well, you need to get a real job,
It was never forced upon me to do anything.
No.
It was just, that's all I ever wanted to do from when I can remember. It's never been a thing that I've wanted to do anything else.
Just that.
It's just this from the moment I can remember. I mean, honestly, hand on heart. And, and my mum also, I'm not going to, she was down on the front line, dropping me off to gigs and, collecting me from gigs when I was younger, and dropping me to, a saxophone lesson or something, and she was incredible. I mean, I can't imagine doing that for anyone, actually. But she'd be, as a full-time job, dropping me, off places and picking me up as well. So she definitely had a bigger part, as big a part as my dad. Yeah,
my mom was a little nervous. She thought I should finish school.
Yeah.
But you just made up your mind. So like, no, I'm not finishing this. And then they got divorced. So my dad moved to this commune.
Commune, yeah.
And he'd had 2 rooms. So me and my brother would sleep in one room. And in his bedroom, he put up a drum kit. So I just moved out to him. I stayed with him. Just when he went to work, I'd just be banging the drums and hanging out.
But it's funny. We played in Copenhagen last year with Jason Isbell, and both Chris's parents were there at that gig, and we played the Garage in London a couple of nights ago, and both my parents were there at that one. They didn't have to take me home after that one. I've moved out since.
Yeah, they dropped you off at 6:30 sound check.
Yeah, I know, but they're still coming. They love it. They enjoy music. It was never forced upon either of us. It seems, it was just a natural. We just loved it.
Did you both do the whole Battle of the Bands thing at school and college, and be in lots of covers bands and those sort of young experimenting bands with lots of mates at school and college, or was it a bit later on that you started to get heavily involved in forming and writing music?
For me, I played it. I formed like a 3-piece blues band when I was, I don't know, 16.
Yeah.
And we had an older guy who played bass, who had the van and everything, and dropped us around. He bought us PA, and he got all these gigs around, Essex, Ilford, and all the funny, not in, but all over the shop, and so I'd be playing, and we also had there was a place called the Acoustic Caf, which was in Soho, which was just it's in Manette Yard, I think it's called Manette Street, just by Foyles, and that was a late license. That used to be a late license gig. So I got a gig there, and I'd play there every Friday or Saturday for a few years, and you'd start at 10 and finish at 3 a.m. And it'd be like, I'd be underage in there, but it'd be just a great way to cut your teeth, so that's how I sort of did it. And then I met a guy called Peter Bruntnell, and when I was about 17, and he took me over to America. I was just doing my A-levels, and after that, I think then we just went to America, and I recorded his record out there, like when I was, 17 or 18 or something.
It's amazing. Teenagers doing stuff like that.
But, it was all hanging out in bars and meeting people. I went to gigs and met people. Even then, I was shy. Really shy, but I knew I wanted to do that, and I plucked up the courage to go and talk to these older musicians and stuff, and they were kind of instrumental in lifting me up and pushing me forward to do stuff. But yeah, it was a mission, I think.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I was actually in a rock and roll band called the Roosters, and we Danish based, and we got signed to Edel Records in Germany. We actually got when I was 19, we got an album out here in Denmark, and toured quite a lot. And it was, funnily enough, it was just rock and roll, and nobody did that in Denmark. Like, I was part of that. So when James called, like 20 years later, hey, do you want to play some rock and roll covers? I was like, I couldn't even tell you at the time, like,
It's funny, really.
we're just going to play some songs, like some rock and roll songs. These are the ones. And it's like, really? I never met anybody who had the same taste in that, because our band just went downhill, like drugs and drink, not so much myself.
Of course not. Your mum's going to be listening.
Yeah. But everyone else, it was just that time, like, because suddenly we had a record out. We were like getting a little bit full of ourselves, I think. And then from then on, I started playing with lots of different people, and then in '96, I found some friends, and we moved to London to basically become the new Beatles.
Nice expectations there.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just, the band dissolved quite quickly, but I stayed on and then started to working. So basically, like from my early 20s, I've been in London for 21 years. And that's how I met, suddenly I met James and, like-minded people.
Yeah, what was your first meetup? Do you remember how you kind of came into each other's lives? Was there a mutual friend, or you were in a bar, or how was it you kind of found each other?
Well, it was through Chrissie Hynde and she had this solo album out and had this band that she was using, and Chris was playing drums in it, and she called me up, and she wanted me to go and play in the band. So I did. And that's where I met him. And I do remember him being, I think the first, I do remember the first rehearsal. I mean, I think I was in a pretty bad shape.
You were?
I was pretty bad shape. So I don't recall too much going on, but then I remember coming into the next rehearsal, I was all right, and then Chris coming in, he was in pretty bad shape. So then my first sort of remember, that's what how I first remember meeting him, and we just hit it off, like-minded, as you say, like-minded sort of people.
Yeah, we had a great first, we had a tour with Chrissie, 6 weeks in America, and it was just the best time. It was such an easy tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah.
So when from that, and obviously touring and getting to know each other and spending lots of time together on tour, when did the idea for His Lordship kind of start? Was it either of you, or was it just a conscious effort of doing something different than you were doing with Chrissie, or was it just a release of wanting just to do something different?
Sorry.
It stemmed from, it was a period where nothing much was going on, and that's hence calling Chris up saying, do you want to do some rock and roll covers in my local pub, which is called the Boogaloo up in Archway, which is
a great name, by the way.
The Boogaloo, it's a great pub. A lot of my musical acquaintances have come from there. Shane McGowan, lots of people. It's one of those pubs. Jerry O'Ball, who runs it, is great, So we started talking about just doing a rock and roll covers thing. So, and we did it. We had a little band called Mother's Little Helper, and we just played rock and roll covers. And then it got to the point where we were playing, and the pub was packed every week, and we'd have like Paul Cook and Glenn Matlock down there, Slim Jim Phantom, Christie came down. We had a lot of that. Everyone was coming down to it. It was like a Sunday afternoon thing.
Was it just you two, or did you have a bigger band at that point?
Oh, we had a bass player.
Yeah, bass player as well.
Some
slap. It was a trio.
Yeah, it was a trio there. And then we decided to, and then we just got bored playing covers. It's like, because we write, song.
Yeah, you're creative, aren't you?
Yeah, and so that was great doing that, but it's like, well, you can't just do this. So, but we saw how people reacted to the music. So then we thought, then we just thought about writing songs in that way, and we discussed it ad nauseum, really, didn't we, Chris? And we had Then the lockdown happened, and we just started writing together, and it all took shape from there. We didn't have any sort of, it didn't, the band, we wanted it to be a rock and roll band, but there was no sort of, we didn't want it to be a 1950s rock and roll band. It could be anything. It's about the spirit of it, really. We could do a John Coltrane, improvisation for 20 minutes, but it still have that spirit. It didn't really matter, and that was important to us. And we didn't want to write about a Cadillac, because what the hell would we know about a Cadillac?
Not very relatable, is it really?
No, I don't even drive, so it's ridiculous. So we wanted to write about what we knew as well, and so hence why the songs about Camden and Buzzkill, all that. Yeah,
that's amazing. I love that. I love that you were kind of doing successful covers, really, in a band in a quite a smallish venue, but the whole time it was destined to be more than that. Some people now are just living off doing Foo Fighters nights or Radiohead nights, and that's all they do. 12 months a year, solidly touring, just playing covers. But there was more for it.
Absolutely, that's a great way to, as far as I'm concerned, to earn a living doing music is an amazing thing, and if you have to do that, then that's a great thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with it at all. It was just for us. We were more ambitious than that. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to write. Otherwise, we didn't want to be in a covers band.
So where are we looking at in timescale of when you then started to write? Was this during lockdown or just after lockdown that you guys kind of sat down and started putting pen to paper and writing lyrics and songs? And
I'd say it was before lockdown, because I remember like our first couple of singles. One is called "I'm So Bored of Being Bored," and people thought it was a lockdown song, but it was actually written before that. We were bored even before lockdown.
So lockdown was like, well, if you're bored now, watch this space.
Yeah. But we were just coming into lockdown, I think, and it kind of actually, because I remember you, James, you had a lot of work on with the presenters, and so that got cancelled. Oh, yeah. And if it hadn't got cancelled, you would have been on the road. And so now instead we were just doing it when we were amping it up, and
it wouldn't have happened without. I don't think it would have happened. Maybe it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for lockdown.
No, I think
interesting. I never thought of that before, but it definitely put a fire under us to get it going, and that's all we talked about for a year more. No more. How long was lockdown? I've forgotten.
Oh yeah,
it felt like forever, but it was about 2 years in it officially, I think.
So that's what we talked about for 2 years. And any time there was any time they opened the gates, for a couple of weeks before it got bad again, Chris would come over to England. We'd try to get recording time somewhere and
do a test every third day. You had to do a test before you came on day 3, on day 8, and on day 10. It was mental, and I still did it.
I was, I had great admiration for Chris.
It was quite good.
I don't know whether I'd have done that.
That's dedication. At least you know his heart's in it.
But also, I just want to get out of Denmark at that time. Like, let me out of here.
Yeah, I'm even bored now of being bored.
Yeah,
exactly.
We worked really hard at it. I mean, we were writing songs, we were talking all the time, and it was a lot of time to. There was a lot of time to think about the band and what it would be, even from social media, because people like us don't do social media really. It's not the thing that we want to do really.
You just want to play songs and write music, don't you? Really,
that's all you want to do, right? But the world's changed, and people, that's how people hang out on a phone.
Yeah,
and so we had to decide how we're going to do that, and so that's why we devised this sort of, we'd be wearing suits all the time. We wouldn't say anything. Actually, I think this is the first time we've ever spoken on a on anything. Yeah, that's weird. All our fans suddenly, fuck off, So yeah, so we devised this thing with we've both been in suits. We've got a lot of inspiration from Gilbert and George, really,
Yeah.
the way they would do, uh, and and then we thought, well, we'll just do 20 seconds of, we'll film ourselves on an iPhone. Fuck it, that's what we'll do, and we'll just us playing 20 seconds of rock and roll and put that up and see what happens. But we won't talk. We won't be, yeah, we just won't talk because I think that could be embarrassing on those social media things, But and so we did it, and the reaction to these videos was sort of overwhelming, and wasn't it?
Yeah, and then the great thing about social media is suddenly you get like you've existed for a week, and you get a comment from someone in the United States or come to Paris or something, and you're like, what? That can actually happen. So it happened to us really quickly. Like people like come and play, and so we were just really encouraged by it. So
it sort of made us, and then we had a record, and we had our first single out and everything, and it enabled us to do our first tour. Really, I think a lot of people had seen it on social media, which completely blew our minds. Really, there are people there wherever we went on this first tour, So yeah.
Did you have this expectation you're going to turn up to these venues and it just be empty, and it was just that one person in Paris who said, "Come and play"?
Absolutely.
Well, we never went to Paris, but
yeah,
just around the UK, you go to Birmingham on a Tuesday. Like, if people don't know you, they're not gonna come. It's really difficult. So the fact that like on the first tour we had like 50 to 70 people, it's like we were like, wow, we got a gig here. It's fun,
Yeah, we were amazed, actually.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to get people out, even if you're very successful and famous. People do not want to leave their homes at the moment.
No.
They don't want to part with money, and in the week, they do not want to have a late night because they got to get up for work the next day. So to get 5 people in a pub to watch your band play right now is an achievement.
It is. It is. I'm very grateful for more the coming out because, there were a number of wet days on the last tour we did, very wet days. I thought no one's going to come out Bristol on a Monday night. And lo and behold, there were, and there you go. I mean, it's a fast, loud rock and roll show that we do. So hopefully they know they realize they're going to be entertained for an hour. That's the aim anyway.
And as we're sitting here now, obviously you guys have got the album, the self-titled debut. It's all recorded. I'm sure it's mastered and ready for the world to listen to. But right now, it's not out. It says everywhere it's like early next year. Have you got a date in mind? Is there something locked in now?
Yes, it's January the 26th.
Brilliant. So we can start the new year with the album. It can be officially out there, and you haven't got to talk about it coming out. It'll actually be there for everyone.
It will be.
Yeah.
It's coming out, and yeah, we're going to do a few in stores around the country around that time too.
How long have you guys had it been? How long have you guys had to sit on it for? Has it been quite a while, or has it only recently been finished and mastered?
Oh, it's only just recently been finished.
Yeah.
It's not been a really long time. A couple of months or so.
I've had a few bands on recently because of lockdown and because of everything that have been like, yeah, we've had this album for 18 months and we're sick of it now and we're bored and we don't really know why we're promoting it, because it's just everything's been delayed with getting vinyls pressed or, the stories behind it all. But it's nice to hear a band that have got something that's only just been finished.
Well, I mean, I say it's just been. I mean, the actual process of it has been the mixing's been finished. The whole recording of the record took place over, the lockdown period.
Yeah,
and in between stuff, it's kind of a snapshot of where we are. To me, it feels like we've sort of grown up in public as a band. Do you know what I mean? Like, we road tested these songs. There's loads of different versions of them when we did, as we were going. Much like an older band would just go and play the songs before they had a record out. You know? And that's how we did it, because we were just doing it for fun, really. That's the main, we were doing it because we loved doing it, and there wasn't much. But
I remember after COVID, there was a 9 months lead up on vinyl pressing.
Crazy.
So luckily that's gone down now. So I think it's only 3 months now. So that made it a bit easier. But I mean, for bands that had an album finished and then had to wait 9 months just for the vinyl to be pressed, it was really difficult. Really difficult.
I mean, we went through around the houses, didn't we, when we were trying to get the first singles out?
Yes.
I mean, it was incredible how we, it was pulling.
We did an EP, and we found like this small indie pressing thing, which then comes with new problems because they're not used to, all these things. And I mean, just getting it sent to England from Denmark, because of Brexit, suddenly they got it returned 3-4 times, and it was it'd be like it'd be somewhere in the British customs for like
fucking Dover.
Weeks. And we just kept pulling out. Yeah, it was something. Learning process.
You've been tested quite a lot, even the fact that the album isn't even out yet, with all these delays and the logistics and stuff. But you're learning the whole time.
Yeah, it's been a
big lesson. Yeah,
it's been tough getting it to this point logistically, and all that stuff like the records, when you're getting your record out and everything. That bit's been tough, but the music's been the easy bit.
Yeah.
The music's that's the funny thing about it, but I guess that's always the case. The music's is the thing that I like to think we can do well, and it doesn't take too much out of us.
Does it feel kind of, are you nervous, both of you, knowing that the album isn't out yet? And when you were playing these shows only recently, like you said last week, with not enough music out there for people to know, so you're not going to get people singing to every song at the moment. You're not going to get only a bit of music out there to give people a taste. Is it a weird kind of psychological look on, we can't rely on people having an album and have had it months so they can learn all the songs?
Well, we've done it back to front, really. We just wanted to play, so we went out.
It's the complete opposite of most bands I speak to.
Yeah. We just did it, didn't we, Chris? We just went for it.
Yeah, and we started out with like mostly covers, and then we need some more originals, and then we get another original, we put it in the live set. And now it's just originals, and if we want, we can play a couple of covers because we have them. But we caught up with ourselves. That's how we basically.
I love it. Each time we write a song, we can get rid of a cover.
And because of YouTube, there'll be like 4 different versions out there of that same song, because we just went for it. We just say like, this is a new one, bear with us, and then people love that.
And the EP we've got, that's the funny thing. We have people singing along, which is great, But people seem to be singing along and know the tunes. Or I mean, there's been probably 5 tunes out and people react like to them, and we've been playing these songs now for this past year. We've only done a couple of tours. We haven't done, we did I don't know how many tours we've done, 4 or 5 in the last
4. Well, we counted. We played 4 times in London, haven't we? 4 or 5.
But, I mean, it's great because we were playing. We went from playing downstairs at this bar called Aces and Eights in Tufnell Park, which held 30 people. That was our first gig, and then we played the Garage on Friday night, and there's about 450 people there or so. So
that's nice growth.
A year, I guess, maybe a little more than a year, but not much more. So it feels a lot longer than that, I must admit. Unless I'm mistaken, it's more than that. But I mean, that lockdown really did. My timeline is just timeline is completely skewed at this point. I've no idea how old I am anymore. 20, that's it.
Yeah. So what's next then? Obviously the album comes out. Are you then going to try and get some more dates? Are you going to try and make London a 5th time? Are you going to try and get a whole UK tour, or even places in Europe that follow the release of the album?
Yeah, we're just going to continue. Like, I think when the album comes out, we have some in-stores.
Yeah.
So we're going to go around playing in-stores, and then
That'll be fun. Really intimate shows. Get to meet
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that are
exactly.
there for the music. That's amazing.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
then
what we're trying to do, really. You know.
we're going to tour in April or May, and it's still up in the air, but that's going to be a UK thing.
Lovely.
And then, we're trying to make something happen in the States over the summer. Also, that needs to materialize. We haven't quite nailed it down. And then September, October, another tour in the UK. That's our plan.
Is that going to be a headline or supporting somebody else?
There's some talk about supporting in May, but I think October is definitely going to be. But we'll play some of our headlines gig in between for sure.
Lovely.
We don't want to keep it too long, because the thing is, for me and James, we always knew it wasn't going to be. We couldn't compete with Britney Spears on Radio 1, if you know what I mean. We just want to be a great live band.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So we can't not play for 7 months. We'll forget what it is. You know.
It's just about playing live for you guys, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you're number one on Spotify. You're not going to be looking every week at the numbers. It's more about just going out there and doing what you love.
That was the whole point of the band, really. I mean, we put a hell of a lot of work into the songs. We put a lot of work, but I mean, the songs were there to put into our live show. That's how we did when we started. That was what it was going to be. There was nothing more. So once you start getting into radio and all this other stuff, it's like it can sort of get you down a little bit, because it's not really the point of the band.
And it's out of your control.
It's out of your control. And also, everything seems to be about numbers these days, which is kind of not what the ethos of this is at all.
No, that's the harsh reality, though. Like everyone, even when I do an interview, everyone's like, what's your numbers of downloads? I'm like, I just want to talk to this band. I enjoy it. It's something fun. We'll both get a lot out of it. It's exciting to talk to new people. It doesn't matter if it's 1 million or 20 downloads.
But also, it doesn't always translate, because I guess end of the day you want to make some money. But it's a different thing. Like, you have people who might have 50,000 followers on Instagram, but they can't fill a venues.
No.
Because it's a different, you know what I mean? And then you have so it's, I think I agree with you. It's too much.
You can literally have a dog, someone's dog on Instagram that has 50,000 followers, or someone that can juggle, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to be able to compete with that dog that's really cute that everyone watches every week. But do you know what? They can't podcast.
No.
So don't compare me to someone's numbers that can be just, someone's bought followers. You know what I mean? It's like
all data, isn't it? And it's that doesn't really fit in with rock and roll.
It doesn't go with it at all. I can't imagine Elvis back in his day or the Beatles being like, well, have we got enough streams on Spotify this week?
I mean, they just went, they did the groundwork, didn't they? They went.
Yeah.
And I think that is, I still think there's a great thirst for a great live music. I could see it in people's reactions. I still think people want that, because you don't get that from AI or whatever. It's real. It's there. It's visceral. It's there in front of you.
I feel like I might sound like a granddad, but I look at old festival posters and the lineups are amazing. You look at Reading and Download and stuff 20 years ago, and the lineups just insane. You've got all these huge bands: Smashing Pumpkins, Radiohead, Pearl Jam. And I think I look now at the lineup and I don't know as many names, just because I'm a granddad. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 40 and I'm that person who's like, it's not like the old days. But the festivals sell out in minutes, and you look at Glastonbury, they don't announce a lineup and it sells out in minutes, and you can't get tickets for half of the gigs anymore. So I think there's never been such a demand, especially after lockdown, for people just to enjoy live music. And it was only I saw Queens of the Stone Age 2 nights ago, and it was just every single person was stood up singing to every word. And I was like, it's because people have not been able to see this band because of lockdown for 3 years. And it was just incredible to be kind of lucky enough then to appreciate live music again, because there was one moment that I thought we might not have a gig again, when everything was being cancelled.
I think we all thought that. No one could see. It was like, wow. And if it's going to mean standing 2 feet apart or whatever the hell it was, I don't even want to do it. This is just But it's definitely come back. People are going out. It seems, yeah, all gigs seem to be pretty well attended. I mean, something like the Queens of the Stone Age, obviously.
Yeah.
There's the thirst for it. Theatre, music, all that. It's great. It's alive and well for sure.
What I do on the podcast, guys, and it's my last question. Normally I do podcast one-on-one, so it'll change the dynamic slightly. But the last question I give to every person that's been on the podcast, and it doesn't matter if they're an actor, director, or a musician, is you get to choose the last song that's played. So after today's episode is all edited and ready for the world to listen to, the guest gets to choose any song by any band or any artist that means something to them. So what we'll do on today's episode is you both get to choose a song, and we'll kind of split it so you can both have a bit of the song, and I'll do like a nice little fade in so you get a bit of both. But what's the song that came to your head and your heart before any other? And I know it's difficult because both of you have got an incredible history of music.
I think mine's too somber for the end.
I've had people pick a 22-minute Yoko Ono B-side that was just noise, so don't worry.
Elvis, Peace in the Valley. But it's like someone's died, man. I don't know. That's a great choice. It just came to my head.
But if that's the one,
it just came into my head.
Okay, I'll say what came into my head. The Replacements, Tommy Gets Tonsils Out.
Well, that's two great songs that have absolutely fuck all to do with each other. That will work perfectly.
Good luck me trying to get them two to splice together. But
exactly.
Yeah, good luck.
Are we going with those two? Are those your final answers?
Yeah, why not? I mean, we are ending our shows with Liberace, a song called Ciao, just to really piss people off.
So nice and epic.
Never say goodbye, say ciao.
Why don't you end it with Chris singing? Do it all, Chris.
Yeah, sit here now, sing the whole lot.
They're quite, yeah, that's it. Those two songs, it's a very somber but an amazing performance by Elvis, and then an amazing electric performance by the Replacements. So it's best of both worlds. That's how we are.
Yeah, I'll get some snippets of your own band in there as well before the interview, so it splices up as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers,
guys. I've really enjoyed today. It's great to meet you both. What I'll do is when I see a announcement for, I think April or May or whenever it is for this UK shows, I'll make sure I pop down, I'll grab a beer with you both.
Come down whenever. Just get in touch.
Yeah, we'll do something. I always love to meet bands. Obviously, the world at the moment is easier to do everything on the computer, but nothing beats actually just coming down face to face and saying hello and watching a show.
Nice. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. And I know you guys said that you weren't, massive on doing press. It was all about not social media and playing shows. But I appreciate your time. And the world is very unfortunate that you have to get out there and be on Instagram and you have to be on Facebook and Twitter.
Funny thing about that, though, I don't want to be too down it because it's obviously it's done a lot for us.
It's the making of you, isn't it, to get the name out there?
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing. I mean, I actually quite enjoy doing these ridiculous videos now. That was one of the sort of things that we're going to have to somehow enjoy it, So we have a really good time making them, and they make us laugh. Yeah. So they have actually been therapeutic for us and good, and sort of we just treat them as a laugh. So I can't be too down on it. The way we're concerned, it's been good fun, but it can weigh you down sometimes. The amount of it
there's too many. So I've got Facebook, which brings a lot of people. Twitter's my biggest one. That's where everybody comes. All my traffic comes from Twitter. I've launched YouTube now because people want to watch interviews. So when you've got Pete Doherty, everyone wanted to watch it. So I was like, okay, we'll put that out. And now everyone keeps telling me to get on TikTok, and I'm like, oh, it's another one.
No, yeah.
You'd think the one would fall away, wouldn't you? Like maybe,
they're not at the moment. There's these 5 beat, and then someone says Snapchat now is. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. There's too much. I'm like, I just want a couple, like new episode out now.
Yeah, we've got our guy Dan doing. He helps us with it.
Yeah,
we do all the content, but as far as putting it out there and how it works, not a fucking clue. And he's been.
And it's different formats as well, isn't it? Like this one has horizontal This one have to be like, oh.
Some give you 30 seconds, some give you as long as you want.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
we sound like granddads, all of us. Some kids are listening like, well,
I'm sure I'm sure the kids feel the pressure as well. You know, like
yeah.
we were talking about this.
They're judged by their numbers. There's kids, my wife's a teacher, and the kids at school are like, it's a bullying technique. Like, well, you haven't got 20 likes on your picture, you're a dickhead. And it's like, fucking hell, what a pressure to put on yourself.
Shocking.
Yeah, I remember like when it was cool to disappear.
It was.
You'd go out and like you'd disappear, like, and people like next day, where'd you go? You know. Yeah. Now, like, you can't disappear. You need to, and it's.
I think you're dead if you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why were you not online for a day? Is everything okay? You're like, well, actually, I went on holiday and I had a meal out with my wife. It was, a bit weird, but that was, normal.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, hopefully, yeah, what can you do? We just have to keep doing it.
Well, I'll tag you guys on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I'll spread the word that your album's coming out, and hopefully
Mark.
we'll see.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks a lot, mate.
Thank you.
Kind of you.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and His Lordship. What a great couple of guys. So enthusiastic, so ambitious, and just amazing people to talk to. I'm so used to the dynamic on Mark and Me of just two people talking, but sometimes it's great to have that extra person and a different dynamic. So I'm really grateful for both of those for taking the time to come on the Mark and Me podcast. As I said earlier today, their brand new album, as you're listening to this, is coming out on January the 26th. Go and pre-order it or listen to it when it's out, buy yourself a vinyl or CD, and go and catch them live when they announce their tour dates, because they're absolutely awesome. I hope after today's interview, you go and check this band out, because they really do deserve your time and attention. Before I go, what I love to do on Mark and Me is ask one favour. So the podcast will always remain free, but in return of listening for free, what I do ask is you hit that share button. Maybe go on your Facebook and hit the share button, on Twitter hit the retweet button, or on Instagram put it as part of your stories. It's the only way this podcast grows. People don't always know this, but I'm a one-man team. I don't have a marketing team or a PR team or money to spend on these things. So if you guys at home are listening and you enjoy it, just share it. Tell your friends, tell people you know, and it really does help Mark and Me. I also have a Patreon account. I understand times are tough financially, but if you can spare a couple of pounds each month, there's a link on markandme.com. You can click that and go straight on there, help sponsor the podcast each and every month, and all the money that goes in there goes right back into the production and making of Mark and Me. Also, you get some welcome packs as soon as you sign up, which include stickers, badges, and I'm making this my big thing of the year, each and every month moving forward, and this is going to happen every month in 2024. You'll get an exclusive episode called The Lost Tapes, which are only for people that come via Patreon, so it's an extra little episode just to say thank you for supporting me. Before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to the podcast sponsor, Richer Sounds. Without those guys, this couldn't happen. So if you're in the market for a brand new TV, home cinema system, or Sonos, or just something awesome within TV and video, go and check out richersounds.com. I'll be back in only a couple of days' time with a brand new episode. Right now, there's going to be brand new episodes every other day for at least the next week or two, because I've got so much to catch up on. So I really hope until then you look after yourself, listen to His Lordship, take care, and I'll speak to you all very soon.